So, hello everyone. I am back with David today. David is a career guidance counsellor in the Dublin area, specialising in sixth year guidance.
Thank you, Martina. Martina is the founder of 65 Points, and thank you for having me here today to discuss National Tertiary degrees.
That's a very interesting subject matter, I think, and one that probably needs more publicity. So, I'm delighted to be discussing it today, and quite a deflection from the usual points focus. So, what exactly are Ireland's new tertiary programs, and how do they differ from traditional CAO routes?
I suppose they're quite revolutionary in that we've been so caught up in points for decades now. And in 2023, the Minister for Higher Education at the time, Simon Harris, introduced this new routeway into a university education, into achieving a degree. And it's called the Tertiary Degree Programme, which is delivered under the National Tertiary Office, the NTO. It's very different in that these routeways do not require points, and the application is outside of the CAO system. So that's to be very welcomed, and it has been embraced by many students in the last 2 years. The process is you start in your local educational training board or further educational training college for the course. You spend 1 year, perhaps 2 years of the course there, and then you progress into the university where you join the students who would have gone through the CAO application. So essentially, it's a program designed by, I suppose, the ETBs and the universities. They work together, and at the end of it, you will earn a full degree, level 7 or level 8. The degree is exactly the same as those achieved by students who have gone through the CAO process, but without the pressure of the points system, and also allows students to, I suppose, experience and get to achieve their passion and their interest in a particular area that they may just have missed in terms of the points. So it's a very structured, very supportive, very revolutionary, I think, pathway in Irish education into achieving your dreams course and career. So it is also a single application. So you make your application to your local ETB, and you will then have to achieve passes in your leaving certificate. Maybe need to submit a portfolio or sit an interview before you win a place on the course. So ETB, year 1 and 2, and then you progress to the associated or linked university for the duration of the degree.
And just while we're on this, you say local ETB, but I suppose you could apply to anywhere in the country.
Yeah, you can. There's nothing stopping you from doing so. You'd be, have to prepare to relocate.
Sure.
And that's fine, as long as you're aware of that. So there are many opportunities in areas in the tertiary programs in nursing, in engineering, in occupational health, electrician, business degrees, psychology, arts degrees. So they're all being introduced. I suppose these areas are very much to fill the skills gaps that we have in our economy. So these courses are introduced for a very good reason by the NTO, because there's a lot of work opportunities in these fields.
Okay. And this applies for school leavers, mature students, both?
It applies for both. Yes, correct. It applies for school leavers, I suppose, who don't meet the cutoff points. They may just miss their course by a few points. For example, occupational health points are very high. There's a lot of opportunities there. However, it's available for students who don't want to get caught up in the stress of points, but have a passion to pursue a particular degree area that might be high points or not even. And yes, it is open to mature students who wish to go back and perhaps complete a degree, and they can apply. It's a different application, it's slightly different, but the information will be on the course page on the NTO website.
Yeah.
So it really is I suppose, a different entry system that's very inclusive and just broadening pathways for all to get into college. And it caters for people of all types of learning, and maybe students who are not particularly ace the exams, but are very capable in a particular area.
Yeah, yeah. And have we had a first set of graduates yet, or is it early days in terms of the program?
No, not yet. So the current cohorts that would have begun in 2023 we have progressed, passing their modules, that is in the ETB in year one, year two, will be progressing into their university now, making that transition. So we haven't had the cohorts coming through just yet. So
Yeah,
that's a little bit,
yeah.
another two or
It would
three
be
years away.
great. It would be great
Yeah.
to see how the completion rates compare, let's say, in traditional entry versus this. Would be very interesting. And can you walk us through a real life example?
Yeah.
For example, you mentioned occupational therapy as being one such course. So it starts in the local education board
Yeah.
and you
The,
progress.
Yeah, there's one route. It's introduced in the further educational training colleges in Kerry and Cork, as two of them participating and linked with UCC University. So students, Leaving Cert students, mature applicants will apply to the associated FET colleges. They will sit an interview, and then following that, hopefully win a place on the occupational um, therapy course and complete 1 year in the ETB and passing all their modules. They will then progress to UCC and continue there for 4 years. So it's integrated 5 year, 1 year ETB, 4 year degree, and they will join the CAO applicants and have the university experience there. They will leave with exactly the same degree as the CAO applicants. Also interesting, which is there's embedded certificates in. So if you complete year one, but you decide not to progress on to university, you will achieve a certificate in health services, for example, just to check health service skills. So if you complete year one ETB, decide it's not for you, you won't leave empty-handed. Okay, so that's good to know.
And generally speaking, if you were to go the traditional route, you would leave empty-handed, wouldn't you?
Yes, you
Yeah.
would leave empty-handed, which is a big advantage that if you were to drop out or decide at the end of year one, this course is not for me, well, then you are leaving empty-handed. So that is an advantage of pursuing a tertiary degree, one of many advantages.
Very interesting. And
Yeah.
are there any other benefits you can think of besides this one, such as leaving early? And we talked about how this pathway is designed for people who probably are a bit too daunted by the CAO selection system. So let's just focus some more on the benefits of the new tertiary programs.
Yeah, there are just so many benefits and more coming to light as certainly as I've become more familiar with them, and some of my students have applied. And what I've noticed is, the big thing is there isn't the pressure of points. The other thing is it's an opportunity to achieve in your area of interest and passion. So it's a very realistic route for some. Um, Unlike a PLC, for example, which are brilliant routeways into colleges, don't get me wrong, the tertiary degree guarantees you a place in university. So once you win your place on the tertiary degree, complete year one ETB, you are guaranteed to get into university. So it's not the case with a PLC where you have to meet a lot of minimum entry requirements to get onto the degree course. So that's a big plus. Um, so there's none of that uncertainty. Everything with the tertiary degree is very mapped out, and that's very attractive for students, I would say. The first year in the ETB, the classes tend to be quite small. So there's a lot of support. And for some students who might have anxiety about entering into a big university course and a very busy lecture with maybe hundreds, it's a nice way to transition into the college experience. So is also a big plus. When you register with the ETB and you begin your tertiary program, you receive your ETB student card, but you'll also receive it from the associated university or linked university. So you can attend libraries, the gym, etc. There you can make use of the facilities. So you get both, the best of both worlds, which is brilliant. Also, the first year of a tertiary degree there's no fees. So you won't start paying fees until you enter into the university, and then You can apply for student grants or SUSI if you wish. And I've already mentioned the embedded awards that you achieve for each year, well, for the first year anyway, the first 2 years, depending on the course. And really, at the end of the day, it's important to remember that if you go down the tertiary degree route, you leave with the same qualification as the student who got on the course as a CEO applicant. So it's a wonderful opportunity outside of the point system. And I think it's one students should embrace and have on the table come August when results are coming out. The applications are still open for some of the courses. The OT one I mentioned has closed, but it's certainly applicable for next year's fifth years. But some are open. So if you go to the nto.ie, go to the course page, you will find the details on how to apply, the minimum entry requirements, and if the course is open and the closing date.
Okay, and do the closing dates kind of vary a huge amount, or is there like a general ballpark of when they tend to close? Do you know?
So the closing period is kind of from maybe like May to September, I would say, but I'd need to check, but it looks like that, but it's different. So each course will have slightly different entry requirements and slightly different closing dates. Actually, TED have just introduced and I've linked up with an ETB in Dublin for politics and society. So you can start your first year in ETB. I think it's in Bridge, but just and another associated, which I just can't recall. However, it'd be on the TED site, and you would then progress in politics and society into TED, and that's one of the latest ones to come out, one of the newest ones to be added to the NTO programs.
And how competitive are these things? Because there is an application process, which, okay, you're not competing on CAO points, but there's probably a selection process and not everyone gets on.
Absolutely, not everybody will get on. For example, the occupational health is limited at 10 places for now in its first year, so it is competitive. It does involve an interview. So what will make you stand out are your work experiences, your volunteering work that you may have been in a local residential care nursing home working with people with a disability, your passion and to bring that across in the interviews and to have a goal for where you would like to work. And, after your degree, perhaps you want to pursue a particular field of work or particular postgraduate in the area. So you do need to stand out and do your preparation because it's certainly competitive for some of the courses, yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's a different type of competition, I suppose, but it's always part of the academic process one way or another, isn't it?
It is. I think while it being academic grades, it generally passes in your leaving cert. I think what the NTO courses are looking for is genuine passion and interest in the field, and to bring that to the interview and to demonstrate that, perhaps through work experiences and just how the language you use and how you put your interest across and how you translate that into the interview.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for lots of students. And as you say, it's definitely a worthwhile backup option for folks looking into it next year. We were talking about some of the features in the newspapers recently, and seemingly in the decade to 2022, the number of students in Ireland has risen by 45%, according to The Economist. So we have a lot of degrees happening in Ireland.
So we're also recently the most educated country in
Yeah,
terms of the number of people with degrees. So which is very encouraging. Nursing points in the west coast of Ireland courses in your traditional colleges have come down because there are many tertiary degree programs in nursing in the west of Ireland. So you can see it will have a knock-on effect on the CEO because it will bring down points as well when you have other routeways to get there.
absolutely. Yeah, because ultimately they are connected systems.
Yeah.
There's a certain number of people who want to do these things and they will get in, through one route or the other. But that's all very encouraging. David, I hope it comes in handy for our listeners. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Martina. And NTO.ie is a great source of information. You can go to the course pages for the courses that interest you and have a look at the entry requirements and perhaps have a look at the closing dates. Some of them may well be open and perhaps should be on the table as an option for this August. But thank you again, Martina, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks, David. And just last thought, you can find David on Instagram, Careers Ascent 24, and probably you know where to find us. We're on various platforms at 625 Points. Have a great day, everyone.